Python or JavaScript? Which languages should I be learning in 2020? What is the best language to actually learn? In today's video, we are going to compare the most popular two languages in 2020, Python and JavaScript. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Vicky's Daily Stand Up. If you are new here, hi, my name is Victoria and you can also call me Vicky. I love helping people getting into tech and learning how to code, and I'm generally passionate about talking in web development and all things JavaScript. So in today's video, we are going to compare Python with JavaScript, and I am going to answer your question. Should you be learning JavaScript in 2020 or should you be learning Python in 2020? So this is a very often asked question because as beginners, we usually tend to just Google questions, what is the best languages to learn? In fact, JavaScript has already become the top most popular languages to learn. But despite the fact that Python and JavaScript are both very popular, there are some differences that you have to pay attention to, and that might actually help you to pick a language that is actually perfect for you. I am going to dive into two of different categories to compare JavaScript along with Python. So the categories are, what are the job opportunities for these two languages? And is it easy to learn these two languages? Is it even possible to learn by yourself? I think the most important question that you have to ask yourself before you picking a language to learn is, what do you want to do? Because in terms of Python and JavaScript, they have their own specialties in different areas. So you need to be able to find out what kind of areas that you are mostly interested in order to pick a language that would bring you more opportunities. Just one thing that I do wanted to clarify before we jump more into comparing these two languages is that, first of all, JavaScript is not Java. I saw this question comes in a lot of times because it just sounds really similar, but comparing JavaScript with Java is like comparing carpet to car. They're not the same thing. First of all, let's talk about Python versus JavaScript in general. Python is one of the languages that are mostly used in a lot of different fields. There are artificial intelligence, machine learning, data manipulations. There's so many ways that Python can be used in these areas. And the fact that Python is mainly focused on the server side, aka we call it the backend. This is what Python is mostly used. In comparison to Python, JavaScript on the other hand is being used mostly in the front end. So if you think about the front end as a menu that presents to the user, JavaScript is a language that will be able to manipulate the menu that is presenting to the user. If you wanted to try to understand a little bit better about the differences between front end and back end, I have a video somewhere here. JavaScript has this special thing where it allows you to manipulate the DOM. DOM is Document Object Model. JavaScript was invented back in the days to be able to use it to manipulate the DOM, to manage HTML and CSS. So that is one of the reasons why JavaScript is super good for creating websites and web applications and doing a lot of the things in the front end. Many years later, a lot of the softwares and a lot of the applications are living on the browser, living on the internet. That is the reason why JavaScript has evolved so much more nowadays, and it has been so widely used in so many applications and so many browsers now. That was good. Let's talk about the job opportunities with JavaScript. So as I said, that because JavaScript is a language that was invented to be dealing with websites and on the browser is a language that mostly used in front end. So you will see a lot of job opportunities that are related to front end. And don't get me wrong, nowadays that JavaScript actually has been involved into more of a backend language. I've seen Node.js has been getting more and more popular nowadays, and there's a lot of backend developers are using JavaScript as a backend language. Ultimately, you'll end up running into cases and scenarios where you'll have to work in the front end. You'll have to build projects that are visually presentable to the user. So let's talk about Python, right? So Python is a language that you can either work as a front end or as a back end, but I've seen a lot of the times Python was widely used for machine learning and for AIs, artificial intelligence. I've also seen Python being used in a lot of fintech and finances companies. The reason for that is because Python is really good with data manipulations, and especially by using a lot of these frameworks such as pandas. If you're generally interested in becoming a data scientist, Python is one of the languages that would actually help you in your career. In the past, we've learned a lot of these machine learning languages in Java, but I've seen in the past decades that Python actually picking up the pace and becoming the leader of machine learning. And there's so many different opportunities and projects that we're involving with Python. Going into a career that is in finance or fintech or some sort of reporting or data manipulation type of rules, Python is the language that you should be learning. And we're going to talk about how easy these two languages are and which one is actually easier. So honestly, I think that these two languages are both very easy to learn in comparison to Java or C or C++ or even C#. Just the fact that Python and JavaScript has a huge community out there, right? There's so many people are learning and using these two languages. So you get a lot of support from other people, which is actually a good sign, because if you're learning as a beginner, you want to get as many opportunities, as many support as possible in the community. So which one is actually easier though? Like, is it Python or JavaScript? So let's talk about Python. I think that a lot of people think that Python is easier to learn because Python is actually really consistent and really logical. It just makes sense. A lot of times when you are learning the most fundamental programming concepts, like class and encapsulation, abstraction, all of these terms, Python actually aligns with these concepts. It has a normal class, it has a normal functions and methods, and so it's really easy for beginners to understand Python, and also for beginners to understand coding concepts and paradigms in general. That is one of the reasons why a lot of people suggest to learn Python. Let's talk about JavaScript, right? A lot of people had mixed feelings about it because JavaScript is actually super quirky and weird, and it has a lot of inconsistency. There's just so many different updates in JavaScript, and you just have to be relevant and to be really up to date with JavaScript. And that is why a lot of times people just don't think is a good language for beginners to learn, because it gets really confusing and it sometimes just does not follow the coding paradigms. There's a lot of memes that people are making fun of JavaScript. It hurts, it breaks my heart sometimes when people are talking about JavaScript, because I love it so much. In my own opinions, and this is what I think that even though JavaScript is really confusing, it can be really interesting to learn because it's interacting with the front end and you are seeing your code instantly in the front end on the page. So it's virtually very rewarding, and it's also really intuitive just because you get to see your code right away. And for that very reason, it makes JavaScript just so much more interesting for beginners to really dive into. Okay, so what is the bottom line here? What if my purpose of learning to code is actually doing a mobile app? Does Python or JavaScript allow me to do that? For Python, you can't really use Python to create mobile apps. And in order to learn mobile apps, and that's probably another topic for another day, but in order to code and create your own mobile app, you'll need to either learn Swift, which is a language that code for iOS, or you would have to learn Java or Kotlin for any Android mobile apps. You can actually learn JavaScript and using some sort of framework such as React Native to be able to actually create a hybrid app, which is an app that you can actually run in iOS devices and also Android devices, but you still would have a long way to go. Like, you'll understand the JavaScript concepts and then you'll be able to start writing some code in React Native and really being able to create your own mobile app. If you actually wanted to create mobile app and that's something that really drives you, I would say not even thinking about learning JavaScript or even Python. I think you would be better off to learn another language that allows you to actually build mobile apps. So what is the bottom line? Do I really learn Python or do I really just learn JavaScript? Like, what to pick? I guess the bottom line is, like, it really does not matter. Really depending on your case and on your circumstances, it really would help if you can just pick a language and start sticking with that language. Honestly, if you think that one language does not work, doesn't mean that you would not be able to learn the other language. Like, if you are struggling right now with JavaScript and you've never tried Python, go try Python. Like, try and learn a little bit about Python and see how you think about that. If you're struggling with Python, go try it out a little bit with JavaScript. Maybe you'll like JavaScript, right? Like, everybody is different, and try out different things and you'll find the most exciting language for you. And I hope that you do, because once you know how to code, it's so good. Like, you feel so powerful. It's like magic, and you can actually create great things with your hands. That is incredible. That was the end of the video. I hope that I answered some of the questions that you have regarding to Python and JavaScript. Which language are you currently learning? Pop down the comments down below right here and let me know, because I read all the comments. I seriously do. I hope that you are enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up, share this video with someone. And that was the end of the video. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon.